Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Data here with breaking news in the NHL. It is official. Erik Karlsson has been traded from the San Jose Sharks to the Pittsburgh Penguins. We're going to start breaking it all down here as the news is just breaking. Frank Saravelli having broken the news just a few minutes ago. Sources saying that the Sharks have traded Erik Karlsson to the Pittsburgh Penguins. It's sounding like Mikael Granlund is going back the other way as part of a package, which I'm sure will include draft picks and or prospects. And we have heard as well that Jeff Petry likely going to be moving somewhere. Third team is Montreal, according to Elliotte Friedman. It sounds like Jeff Petry may be the piece going back to the Montreal Canadiens, which would be kind of funny in a way, right? Erik Karlsson to the Penguins. I clicked on that one again. I want to see Elliotte Friedman. There it is. San Jose completing a deal, and the third team would be the Montreal Canadiens. And it sounds like, according to Sheng Peng, that Jeff Petry would be rerouted to the Canadiens. Funny that the Canadiens traded Petry to the Penguins, because not that he wanted to necessarily get out of Montreal. I think that was part of it, but he wanted it a bit closer to home in Michigan, and now we'd be going back to Montreal. So, as Owen commenting here, shocking news, kinda. Worst kept secret in the league that Erik Karlsson was going to be moving, and most likely to the San Jose Sharks. But now it is official. Looking at the JFresh card right away, just to break it all down, Erik Karlsson is an elite offensive defenseman, coming off of one of the greatest offensive seasons we've ever seen from a defenseman. Amazing passer, excellent shot, also an extremely poor defender who sacrifices a lot to make that offense happen. So this is going to be the interesting thing to see. The Penguins have, and I'll break it down a bit more in depth later on when we look at their blue line now with Erik Karlsson as a part of it. The Pittsburgh Penguins are already a team that have a lot of offensive talent on it. Of course, I don't even need to tell you, Crosby, Malkin, Gensel, Letang. So Erik Karlsson now gives a huge boost to that offense, but it is a bit of a step back defensively. Now, would I rather have Jeff Petry or Erik Karlsson? Of course, I want Erik Karlsson every single day, but it will be a little bit of a shot defensively while they're also having goaltending issues. So that's the only small slight downside to this, that the Penguins got a little bit worse defensively, but they got so much better offensively that I don't think it really matters. In that 100th percentile of offense, even strength offense, that is Erik Karlsson, the 97th percentile of goals per 60, 99th primary assists per 60. He draws penalties is among the best in the league for drawing penalties. Yes, it's official. It's official. 97th percentile of finishing, 85th percentile on the power play. This was his Norris Trophy winning stat card from 2022-23. He had wild metrics. Oh my goodness. The last card you just saw was the 3-year weighted average data. But now if you put it just to last season, you'll see he was in the 99th percentile of even strength offense and 1st percentile of defense. So yeah, Tristan Jarry, he's not too happy about that maybe. But I think the Penguins are going to be in such a better position that it won't really matter as much as you would think getting a big downgrade defensively would seem, right? 99th percentile of goals, 100th percentile of primary assists, chance assists, neutral zone shot assists, shot contributions, in those highest percentiles of the league for so many important metrics that you look for in a hockey player, in a star. If we look, still waiting to see what the return officially is going to be. The Penguins are acquiring Erik Karlsson. The Penguins are in the Habs. The Montreal Canadiens are involved as a third team. That's official. What we want to look at now is what are the details. It's sounding as though Mikael Granlund is headed to the San Jose Sharks, while Jeff Petry is headed to the Montreal Canadiens. I would assume, I don't know if it's going to be 100% cap dump, it's going to be salary retention. What are the Canadiens going to get as a sweetener in doing so? That's what we're going to find out shortly as the tweets continue to roll in here on X, whatever you want to call it. The only other time the reigning Norris Trophy winner was traded in the offseason following a win was the Canadiens were also involved when they traded Doug Harvey to the New York Rangers. Interesting, very interesting. So the Canadiens are involved in the deal. Jeff Petry may be headed back to Montreal, but regardless, the Penguins got a huge upgrade today. Maybe not defensively so much, but so much offensively that it won't really matter. Erik Karlsson, coming off of an incredible Norris Trophy winning season, 101 points in 82 games. He had his ups and downs in San Jose, but we can all say pretty confidently that last season was an incredible one for the Norris Trophy winner. He has one 2 other Norris trophies. So he is a 3-time Norris winner. The last 3 seasons before his Norris Trophy win, he had no Norris Trophy votes at all. But aside from that, he had Norris Trophy votes in every other season from starting in his 3rd year all the way until his his first year in San Jose. Who do the Habs get? We don't know what the Canadiens are getting. I would assume it's just going to be picks going to the Montreal Canadiens to help out the deal, to facilitate as the 3rd team. Let's see what Dave Pagnotta says. So the Penguins had discussed Granlund going to San Jose. We'll see the full details soon. Yeah, Sheng Peng saying Petri back to Montreal. Not confirmed just yet, but that is what the conversation has been as of now. So as the details are coming out, let's see what all of you have to say about this deal, getting into the comments from all of you. Let's see. Kai saying, when Twitter accounts blow up my notifications, you keep me updated right when I need to be. Bless you, Data. Appreciate that. I'm glad I could jump in just on time. I had to just quickly get a thumbnail out. Wow. Aiden, a resident Penguins fan. I'm so hyped right now. I don't care. Excuse me. I clicked on Owens there. Owen saying that my gut tells me it's going to be a huge loss for the Penguins and Carlson won't be as good next year. That's what the gut says. But Aiden says that he is hyped right now. I don't care if he's older. Dubas is doing something that Hextall never would have done. Just scrolling through. Dexter's on here. Good morning, Dexter. Owen saying Carlson is more of a 4th forward on the ice, although since he's so good offensively that the puck won't go in their net because he's putting it in the other net. That's the thing. The Penguins did take a bit of a hit defensively by acquiring Erik Karlsson, but he is such a strong offensive threat that I don't think it really matters. It is so strong and weighted so heavily on one side that it doesn't really hurt the other end of things. Let's see. Just seeing if there's anything new over here. AJ's happy about that one. Going 82-0. Let's bring it back over to X, to Twitter. Let's see what anything new has to say from Frank Saravalli, Dave Pagnotta. They've all been working the phones pretty hard here this morning. Erik Karlsson, 4 more years on his deal. Let's see what JFresh says here about this deal as well. Okay. So JFresh, shooting score versus passing score, 5-on-5 per 60. The Sharks defense is passing and shooting score from last season. So when we look at this Cartesian plane, shooting score per 60 versus passing score per 60, Erik Karlsson, he's not quite in that perfect area you want to be in, where the dual threats would be. He's more of a passer than a shooter. As you can see, passers on this end, shooters on this end. More of a passer than a shooter, but he's not quite in that dual threat category in 2022-23. Now, is that a huge issue? I don't think so, because when your finishers are Sidney Crosby, Jake Gensel, and Gino Malkin, I think having an elite passer who's coming off a Norris Trophy and 100-plus points, I think having him on your blue line with Chris Letang, adding a lot of insurance, someone who's had his own injury troubles in recent years as well, adding him to the core, and hold on, the Canadiens have acquired Jeff Petry, Casey DeSmith, Nathan Legare, and Mike Hoffman and Rem Pitlick. Let's go! The Montreal Canadiens have dumped Mike Hoffman. They get back Jeff Petry. They get Casey DeSmith to play 3rd goalie, I guess. Nathan Legare, who's a prospect, a former 2nd-round pick, I think 3rd-round pick, and a 2025 second. This is a huge masterclass. Let's go. Huge breaking news right there as the Montreal Canadiens acquire move Mike Hoffman. And hold on, here it is. Here's the trade all in one place. The Canadiens receive a 2nd, Petri, DeSmith, and Legare. The Penguins receive Carlson, Pitlick, Hamaliuk, a 3rd. And then the Sharks receive a 2024 1st, Mikael Granlund, Jan Rutta, and Mike Hoffman. Oh my goodness. Here is the official full trade. I don't know why it's opening up a new tab for me. I just want to see the image a bit closer up here. Perfect. Here it is. Here it is, ladies and gentlemen. What a deal. Wow. So the Pittsburgh Penguins get Erik Karlsson as their prime piece, of course. Rem Pitlick, who's a good depth forward. Dillon Hamaliuk, who is, I don't know if I if he's quite a prospect anymore. I believe he's in his early 20s, and a 2026 third-round pick from San Jose in exchange for going to the Sharks, a 2024 Penguins first, Mikael Granlund, Jan Rutta, and then from the Canadiens, Mike Hoffman. To the Canadiens, the Penguins trade their 2025 second-round pick, Jeff Petry, Casey DeSmith, and Nathan Legare. So what the Penguins move out in this deal is a first, a second, Granlund, Petri, Rutta, DeSmith, and Legare. That's a Dubas masterclass. That is a Kyle Dubas masterclass. Oh my goodness. Wow. So and the Sharks, they get a first, great. Granlund, pretty much a dump. Rutta, pretty much a dump. Mike Hoffman, pretty much a dump. I don't know if I like this deal for the Sharks. I don't think I like this whatsoever, if I'm being honest. The Sharks were hoping for multiple firsts, prospects, all that. They get no one who's young. They get a first from Pittsburgh in 2024. That's nice. But the Penguins are likely, you have to think they're at least a playoff team. At least a playoff team. So the Penguins give up more to the Canadiens almost, I would say. Instead of a first, they give a second. Instead of Granlund, they give Petri. And instead of Rutta Hoffman, it's DeSmith Legare. That is wild. So I think Dubas, not only does Kyle Dubas pull off a fleece, but I think Kent Hughes pulls off a fleece. And Mike Grier is left looking maybe like the new guy in the block here. I don't know if I like this at all for the Sharks. I know it's a tough contract. And maybe it's because of salary retention. Let me see here. Excuse me. Click on the wrong tab there. Let me see on salary retention here. I believe I saw Petri is 25% retained. Let's see on the retention, because I've got to see a lot of retention if I'm going to say that the Sharks did well on this one. 25% of the salary being retained by the Canadiens. No salary retained by the Canadiens in Dillon Hamaliuk and Pitlick. Let's see on... Okay, so here's the deal. Doesn't include any stuff. Okay, here's the trade. Retains one. Okay, San Jose retains 1.5 million. So Carlson at 10 million for the next 4 years. Erik Karlsson at 10 million for the next 4 years. And Petri, the Penguins retain 25% of Petri, and the Sharks retain 1.5 of Carlson. So I don't know. I find that a bit odd. The Penguins, it doesn't make. That's not enough. It's not enough for Grier to say you can take a hit on the picks and the prospects. You're only saving 1.5 million, or no, sorry, you're saving 10 million, but you're retaining only 1.5. You're retaining 1.5. You're not getting anything more than that. I don't know. I'm a bit all over the place. I'm trying to put this together here. The Penguins move out more for Hoffman and Pitlick almost just to dump Petri. I don't know. I like this a lot for the Penguins. And don't forget, they're also picking up Mike Hoffman here. Mike Hoffman, who honestly, I see him as like a cone as a Canadiens fan, but put him on the third line and only put him on the power play. Don't put him in any defensive situations. He could be a good pickup for the Penguins, who sneakily scores 25 goals. That's only 1.5 retained. So Mikael Granlund going to the Sharks, pure playmaking forward whose defensive limitations and lack of individual chance creation hold him back a lot. But he's a great passer. The Sharks, but they're not doing anything. The Sharks are not doing anything. So Granlund at 31 years of age, signed on for 2 more years. That doesn't do anything for me. Like, yeah, he has value in and of himself, but on a team that isn't trying to do anything. No, Mike Hoffman going to the Pittsburgh Penguins. Jan Rutta traded to the Sharks, a veteran third pair D. He's signed for 2 more years at 33 years of age. But like, what are the Sharks trying to do? You got two serviceable players who are above the age of 30 signed on for 2 more years. Hoffman also going in this deal, but he's going to the Penguins, not to the Sharks. Unless I misunderstood, but there's a Sharks logo here on Mike Hoffman, but I believe Hoffman was going to the Penguins in that deal, correct? Let's go. Okay, my apologies. Mike Hoffman going to the San Jose Sharks. Sorry, so they were right. But regardless, that doesn't make sense even more. If Hoffman was going to the Penguins, I'd say it makes sense. Sorry, my apologies. If Hoffman was going to the Penguins, I'd say, okay, it makes sense to play him in that third line role, power play and all that. Mike Hoffman, amusingly included in this trade, he was, wasn't he on the Sharks for like 1 day? Or no, he was on the Panthers for like he was on the Sharks for like 1 day, wasn't he? He's a pure sniper who likes to take one-timers from distance. Sorry, with all the details coming out. And Engels says that the Habs will trade Petri before the season gets going. Okay, that's good. So Hoffman, just pure, I don't know what I can say. Just a shooter. That's all he is. He's a shooter. I guess that's what I can say. He likes to take one-timers from distance. Mike Hoffman's a shooter. So the Sharks acquire a 31-year-old Granlund, a 33-year-old Hoffman, and a 33-year-old Rutta. So you get 3 players 31 years or older and a first-round pick for Erik Karlsson, and you retained $1.5 million on him. I don't like that. Yeah, he was there for like 20 minutes. That's true. So let's go back to the tweets here. If Eric Engels is saying that information on Petri here. Wow, this is a lot to take in right now. There's a lot that we have to break down here. DeSmith in Montreal. Yeah, so Petri is likely going to be flipped. Sharks retain 13.04% on Carlson for 4 years, and the Penguins retain 25% on Petri for the next 2 years. Wow. I don't like this at all for the Sharks, I have to say. You would think that they're retaining like nothing if that's going to be the return that they get. Retaining 1.5 isn't a lot, and that's why they didn't get a lot back, I suppose. Wow. So let's look at this a little bit closer now. I wonder if it would be refreshed here on Cap Friendly. Let me see this as we're about 100 here in the chat. Breaking news. Let's just break it all down if you're just joining us. Erik Karlsson at 1.5 million, 13% retained. He'll be making $10 million for the next 4 years. He's off to the Pittsburgh Penguins with Rem Pitlick from Montreal, Dillon Hamaliuk from San Jose, and a 2026 third-round pick. In exchange for, the Sharks receive back a 2024 first from Pittsburgh, top 10 protected, Mikael Granlund, who's 31, Jan Rutta, who's 33, Mike Hoffman from Montreal, who's 33, and the Montreal Canadiens, just for making this trade happen, and they even get the luxury of dumping Mike Hoffman. They get a second-round pick in 2025 from Pittsburgh. They get Jeff Petry, who they will retain 25% on and subsequently flip for more, or even if it's the seventh, it's more. Casey DeSmith, who instantly becomes someone that you can play with Allen and Montembeault, and a prospect in Nathan Legare. So that's going to be good for the Canadiens much more than anyone else, I think. I think the biggest winner of this trade is Montreal. However, I think that the Penguins have a huge advantage in this deal, because not only did they acquire Carlson for very little in terms of picks and prospects, they also dump Granlund and Petri. Is this not wild? This is wild to me. So let's break. I'm going to get a few more of your comments here while we're getting up to over 120 in the chat. If you're just joining us, be sure to subscribe for breaking news and analysis in the real world of hockey, NHL 23 franchise mode career simulations. If you enjoy this content, you'll enjoy a lot more that goes on here on the channel. We'd love to have you join us. Also, the Discord link in the description for more breaking news and discussion of hockey there. Charlie commenting that Dubas cleared our team of scraps and got arguably the best defenseman in the game. You got to respect that. You have to respect that. That is a huge plus for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Even if he is not putting up the 100+ numbers, even if he's not winning the Norris trophies, to get him for 4 more years at $10 million, it's tough, but 4 more years at $10 million, to get him at that AAV for not giving up much and clearing out a bunch of scraps, that is a huge weight off their shoulders. I'm just pulling up Nathan Legare's numbers here for all you Canadiens fans. I know you'd be curious about that. Petri won't be staying though. Diablo's commenting, will Petri accept that? No, Petri's going to be flipped before the season gets going. So I wouldn't be going too crazy about Petri being back in Montreal just yet. NHL's put on notice for sure. That Metropolitan Division has to really be waking up here. So let's look a bit at Nathan Legare, the Canadiens acquiring him, a former third-round pick in 2019, 22 years of age from Montréal, 19 points in 68 games. He's a right winger. He's 6 foot. Not the greatest numbers in the QMJHL nor in the AHL. I don't know if he really becomes much, if I'm speaking honestly, but you know, un gars de chez nous, the Canadiens love to have players from La Belle Province. So Nathan Legare is joining the Montreal Canadiens organization. He's young. He has the potential. He's a third-round pick. He could become something in that bottom 6. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets NHL playing time a la Raphael Harvey-Pinard and the Jesse Elanins of the world, who are kind of those fringe AHL guys who have gotten opportunities in Montreal in the past. I wouldn't be surprised. Now, if we go the Pittsburgh Penguins, do we see Erik Karlsson on here just yet? Yes, we do. So Erik Karlsson, he's going to have that no move clause. He's going to be signed for $10 million for the next few seasons. Let's look at the Penguins situation here. They're currently over the cap by about $80,000. But that's before, projected LTIR used is 0, but they do have an LTIR candidate in Jake Guentzel. I'm not sure if he's starting the year on the IR or not. But regardless, the Penguins are able to maneuver with only $80,000 to have to clear up. That's very maneuverable. The Penguins shouldn't have any contractual issues for 2022-23. Now, headed into 2024-25, you'll have Jeff Carter off the books, you'll have Rem Pitlick off the books, and you'll have to only really sign P.O. Joseph, Ty Smith, maybe Alex Nedeljkovic. The Penguins are not in a bad spot contractually here. Malkin's signed on long-term. Rust, Rickard Rakell, Riley Smith, Achari, Letang, Graves, Jerry, all these players are signed for future years here. All of these players are at least locked up for a couple more seasons, and if nothing else but those players happen, the Penguins would still be in a good spot. Give me the 2024-25 lineup, a top 6 of Crosby, Malkin, Rust, Rakell, Smith, and I don't know, throw someone else in there, Alex Nylander, throw any Band-Aid there, and give me a top 4 of Carlson, Letang, Graves, and Marcus Pettersson. Give me a starting goalie of Tristan Jarry, and I'm still very pleased with the Penguins. This has just extended the Penguins window. The Pittsburgh Penguins now have, I would say, at the very least, a 2-year window. What will Crosby want? Will Riley Smith want to stay? What's going to happen with Marcus Pettersson? Those are questions for the end of 2025. What the Penguins have to do in these next 2 seasons is do what they've already kind of been doing the last few years, but now at a larger scale. All in. 2 words. All in. They got it. Yeah, of course, I forgot about Jake Guentzel as well. But I'm not worried about that because Jake Guentzel, you got to sign him. Oh, great. You got 3.125 clearing up in Jeff Carter. You got 1.1 clearing up in Rem Pitlick. You got 1.5 clearing up in Alex Nedeljkovic, and I don't think Guentzel would want much more than maybe a $2-3 million upgrade. So yeah, the Penguins are certainly in a good spot. We're at over 150 people watching right now. Welcome to everybody. If it's your first time on the channel, be sure to subscribe as we're doing breaking news and analysis in the real world of hockey, NHL 23 franchise mode, career simulations, and much, much more. If you want to see the Connor Bedard career simulation, the Matvei Michkov career simulation, our Pittsburgh Penguins franchise mode series on NHL 23, very timely. Check out the channel. We'd love to have you join the team. The full trade, once again, the Pittsburgh Penguins acquiring Erik Karlsson at 13% retained, making $10 million for the next 4 years from the Sharks. Rem Pitlick from the Canadiens, Hamaliuk from the Sharks, and a 2026 third-round pick from San Jose. In exchange only, the Penguins only give up a 2024 first, Mikael Granlund, who they wanted to dump, Jeff Petry, who they wanted to dump, a second, Casey DeSmith, a prospect who wasn't developing in Nathan Legare, and Jan Rutta, who's 33 years old, who wasn't going to be a huge part of their defense either moving forward. So the Sharks get a first, Granlund, Rutta, and Hoffman, 3 players who are 31 years of age or older, and a top 10 protected first-round pick. So that first-round pick in 2024 is very likely 20th overall or higher. And you would think that the Sharks would have gotten more for having retained the amount that they did. If the Sharks were retaining between nothing and like $2 million, you would think that the return would be not that great. You know, I'm not saying that the Sharks should have gotten a crazy amount when they're only retaining 1.5, but retaining 1.5 is still 1.5 for the next 4 years, and he's still a 100+ point Norris Trophy winner. To receive only 1 first-round pick and 3 players who are 31 years of age or older, no prospects, no more picks than just a first, that is wild in my mind. And the Canadiens, just for saying, hey, let us help you out, they pick up Jeff Petry, who they'll flip. They're retaining him at 25%. Casey DeSmith, there's a goalie to help out with Montembeault and Allen. Nathan Legare, un gars de chez nous. The Canadiens love having their Quebec-born prospects. And hey, a 2025 second-round pick. Don't mind that if I do. So a lot of people, comment, is Petry getting flipped? Is he staying? The thought process right now is that he will be flipped. So the Canadiens retain 25%. or will retain more. Sorry, the Penguins are retaining 25%, and the Canadiens will retain probably another 25%, and a team will acquire him for, I would assume, something very low, very little. That is, excuse me. If they who's the Penguins backup next season? Maybe Blomqvist. Maybe Blomqvist comes up next year down in the system over here. Yeah, I could see it being Joel Blomqvist coming, former second-round pick, being the Penguins backup next year. So if you want to see it in a bit of a different way here, Petri at 25% retained goes to the Canadiens, and then he may be flipped at another 25% retained, in my opinion, and as he'll go to another team. Oh, Nedeljkovic, excuse me. Yeah, Nedeljkovic. I totally forgot. Yeah, so that makes perfect sense. I was saying, why would the Penguins have signed Nedeljkovic if DeSmith is staying? Yeah. My apologies. I scrolled too quickly. So only one protected first-round pick included. Petri, Rutta, Granlund out, and no young players with any chance of ever cracking the roster included. Let's go. Huge deal for Kyle Dubas. What a splash as Penguins GM. Wow, what a splash. So let's break it all down in the JFresh cards before we go back to breaking it down organizationally. There's a lot to break down in this video. So I'll break it down in the JFresh cards, then we'll break it down on the cap friendly, then we'll break it down on just on the hockey reference, just looking at the numbers. So the Canadiens get Jeff Petry, who they'll likely flip, but he's serviceable enough in his own, even though he's a veteran top 4D. And he took a dip last season. He didn't completely fall off. He still has value, just that his cap hit made him pretty much unmovable, right? Yeah, he's worth a pick. He's definitely worth a pick. Casey DeSmith, meanwhile, has been a pretty reliable backup for the Penguins, often having to take starters net due to injury. DeSmith, I would say, despite some of his troubles over the years, is one of the better, and by better I mean top half, backups in the NHL. He's a 1B. He's not a 2. He's a 1B. DeSmith has shown himself to be capable. The Canadiens also pick up prospect Nathan Legare, going to his hometown of Montreal, a long shot to make the NHL. I would see him being a depth guy at the very best. 1% chance of becoming a star according to this metric. Now, of course, I would take this with a massive grain of salt, but just to say, the percentages are not looking great. He didn't have good numbers in the QMJHL, and he didn't have good numbers in the AHL. So to say, will he become an NHLer at 22 years of age? He's going to be turning 23 in this next season. What did he score last season? 19 divided by 68. He scored 0.28 points per game in the AHL. Wouldn't say it's great. Now, what would happen for the Montreal Canadiens in terms of their goaltending situation? Blockbuster commenting, would it be DeSmith and Montembeault, Allen on the way out? I think it's more injury insurance. I think the Canadiens are kind of moving away from Caden Primo, I would think, in my mind. Primo had to do a lot in terms of backing up for when Allen was injured. So I would think that the Canadiens run with 3 goalies. I wouldn't be surprised if one of those 3 move out, as they're all NHL caliber. But I would think that the Canadiens run with those 3 goalies and say, let's just have a better guy in the third spot instead of Caden Primo. Do you think this trade is good enough for Pittsburgh to make it back to the playoffs? Absolutely. Yeah. I think that the Penguins will certainly be making the postseason. The Penguins should be one of the top teams in the Metro right now. Absolutely. The data plan greater than the Dubas plan. Thank you, Dabrowski, with a $1.99 donation. Appreciate you, buddy. Appreciate you very much. So we're a lot of people in here. Let's just look at it once more as I continue to look at the JFresh cards. If you're just joining us, here's the trade. If you want to have a quick look at it, join the channel if you haven't already. Breaking news analysis in the real world of hockey, NHL 23 content, including our Pittsburgh Penguins franchise mode series right now. We're having a great time. We're in 2025. It's a blast. I'd love to have you join in as an assistant general manager. So that's what the Canadiens get back. Let's look into what the Sharks are getting. So Mikael Granlund, we already looked a bit at him, 31 years of age. He's a passer. He'll be probably a middle 6, top 6 centerman for the Sharks, depending how Hurdle is used. I would think that it goes Couture or Hurdle Couture on the 1C and 2C, and Granlund as the 3rd-C. Then as a second, third pair guy, you got Jan Rutta in there, 33 years of age, signed for 2 years, and then throw in Mike Hoffman, who's a shoot first power play specialist. I don't like this for the Sharks. I really don't like it for the Sharks. Forget just the facts of you got 3 players who are 31 or older, and you can get prospects. Just looking at their current organizational makeup and what they are currently trying to do, I don't think this makes sense for them whatsoever. The Sharks are, I wouldn't say that they're necessarily going into a rebuild. They've kind of been in the midst of a rebuild, but what are they trying to do? They have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 expiring UFA forwards, 6, 7 expiring, 8, expiring UFAs who are going to be in their lineup this season. What are they trying to do? Are they trying to make the playoffs? Are they trying to squeeze something out of Hurdle and Couture and give a little cup to Marc-Edouard Vlasic or something? I don't know. The Sharks are not in the right spot to be doing this right now. They are in the spot where they should be saying, yes, I don't want these 30-year-old players. I want to get the prospects. I want to get the picks. Now, granted, it may be that they just take those players and flip them at the deadline. That may just be the case, but it's an interesting move. And it's not one that I would really think makes the most sense for the Sharks. They have $4 million in cap space. They're a bottom 5, bottom 10 team. They have interesting players like Hoffman, Duclair, Barabanov, expiring UFAs who could be very serviceable. But from game 1 to game 62 at the trade deadline, what are they going to really be trying to do? Will they be trying to compete? Will they be trying to showcase players so that they can finally get picks and prospects later on? I'm not so sure about that. Dexter with a $10 donation. Appreciate you, my friend. Thank you for that very much on this early Sunday morning. Actually, I just got back from vacation less than 24 hours ago, so this was perfect timing for the deal. Thank you, Kyle Dubas, for waiting a little bit on that one. Thank you very much, Kyle. Let's go back to JFresh here, look at the Penguins cards, and then we'll break it down a bit more. We haven't looked at Hamaliuk at all, the one prospect that the Penguins get. They got more prospects than the Sharks. So let's look at this right here. He hasn't done it just yet, just Erik Karlsson. So if you want to see a little bit more about Erik Karlsson, once again, how did Montreal win the trade? Montreal wins the trade, in my opinion, because they get so much for so little. All they're doing is moving out Mike Hoffman, who's, as a Canadiens fan, a cone, a guy who the Canadiens never should have gotten, in my opinion. They move out Mike Hoffman, dead weight. They move out Rem Pitlick, a bottom 6 forward. And all they have to do that is they get back a second, they get back a goalie, a 1B caliber goalie. They get a prospect who may never become anything, but he's a prospect for Laval. And they get to move Jeff Petry and flip him for something else. So in the end, they'll move Hoffman and Pitlick for a second, DeSmith, Legare, and whatever Petri turns into. It's not super flashy, but it's in terms of value, that's incredible. Hoffman at one point was being thought we can get a 4th for him at the trade deadline. Now you're moving Hoffman and Pitlick for a second, for DeSmith, for Legare, because you're doing the Penguins such a favor in taking Jeff Petry. So I think that's my thinking behind it. I wouldn't say the Canadiens are the winners of the deal in terms of they got the most because the Penguins got the best piece. They got Erik Karlsson, right? But they also get so much for so little. Going back to the comments here. Habs get rid of Hoffman. That's the value here. Sorry I can't bring somebody on the screen. I'm reading them off the side of my screen. And going back to, I see, thanks Dabrowski. Abraham commenting, honestly, Montreal can still get a lot for Petri if they also retain. That's true. Retain 25 again. He's only making what, 3.1 million at 50% retained? That would make him extremely cheap for any team. His best years are behind him, but he's still very serviceable, especially at a lower AAV. Jeff Petry at 3.1, 3.2 million, that definitely has value. So the Canadiens are going to get even more. So they could move out Hoffman and Pitlick and do the Penguins a favor and get a second, maybe another second or a third. This is going to be good. This is going to be good. Yeah, they're definitely be trading Jake, I think. I don't think he really wants to go back to Montreal. I think he must be closer to home. I wonder if it works better for the Red Wings now with him being at a lower AAV as well. Unreal deal for the Penguins, breaking it here now this morning. Unreal deal. So let's go back here. Looking at Erik Karlsson, as I just mentioned, what can you say about him, right? That's the last 3 years. We look at this just last season, his metrics for just this last season, in that 96 plus or 100th percentile for so many different attributes. Spencer commenting, do you think Pittsburgh is done upgrading before the season starts? I would say so. The Penguins they did what they can do. They're 80 $50,000 over the salary cap now. I don't think there's much that they can do. They're not in a bad spot, but I think that they're about as tight as it's going to be able to get. I don't think they can do much else. I like the Pitlick pickup, actually. I think that's a great bottom six thing. Pitlick is a great energy guy. As a Canadiens fan, I saw a lot of him. So Pitlick in the bottom six, Carlson playing with Letang, or maybe not with Letang as they're both right D, but playing on that same blue line as Letang. Wow. All I got to say is wow. Only problem is he can't play defense. Sure, he's not the greatest defensive presence out there. I'm not going to lie. Don't get me wrong. But I think that his offensive value is so much that it pretty much negates it. Let me go back here. I don't know if there's any cards on Hamaliuk or anything like that, but I think I'm going to start breaking it down. What teams in Montreal send Petri to? Really, whoever Petri wants to go to. Because he has this no trade clause, and there's a lot of teams that will be interested in wanting him now with that AAV. I wouldn't be surprised if it's Detroit. The Pens swapped Petri 35, Rutta 33, DeSmith 31, Granlund 31 for Carlson 33 and Pitlick 26. They got younger in this trade. Is that not crazy? Mackenzie, welcome to the stream. Thank you. Just got back from vacation a little under 24 hours ago. So great that Dubas held out on it. Edmonton reunion, maybe that'll be something, eh? If Petri were to go back to the Edmonton Oilers, but I don't think the Oilers really have the cap to be able to take on, not as AAV necessarily right now, but for, is it 3 more years? Mike Hoffman, ex-Sharks player, gets to make his debut 5 years later. Anything else here that we're seeing brand new? No, eh? Okay, so the Canadiens now, after acquiring Petri and DeSmith and trading away Pitlick and Hoffman, they're now $5.17 million above the cap, but $5.3 million of LTR candidates. So the Canadiens are not in a bad spot either. If we go ahead and look at their cap-friendly page, Wings have no room. I think Carlson could repeat those kinds of offensive numbers. Let me look. I said that the Red Wings would make sense, but I'm not sure if they quite have the room right there. That's it. Mike Hoffman, formerly of the Sharks for 25 minutes. He's back. KMS, you got it. So the Red Wings have space. They have the space. They have 7.3. They could afford Petri if he's going to be 50% retained at 3.1 about. Yeah, they could do that. That's a lot of dead weight trimmed. A lot. Where do the Pens finish next year? I say this makes them a top 10 team. I think it definitely makes them a top 10 team after missing out on the postseason this last year. So the Canadiens now, they have a lot on the injured reserve. I think the only LTIR really you're going to have is Carey Price and maybe Paul Byron. Well, Byron's gone now, right? I forgot about that. Byron's gone now. We've been saying him for so long. I think the Canadiens are in a good spot as well. They get to move some dead weight and they get to recoup some value. They're not a team that's going for anything necessarily this next season. I'd like to see them push for a wild card, but this is a good wait, patience, recoup value, use your value well, and weaponize your cap space type of deal for Kent Hughes. Absolutely so. Let's go back to the comments here. When are we getting more Penguins franchise? I'll be recording today and uploading either Monday or Tuesday to Browskiego. Do you think that they can match up against the teams in the Metro like the Canes, Rangers, and Devils? I think the Devils are very scary. I take the Penguins over the Rangers right now. I think the Canes and the Devils are the top 2 teams in the Metro. I think the Penguins are number 3 right now. I think that they're better than the Rangers with this. And I think that the Capitals are definitely put on a watch alert here. This could be the Penguins window. This Penguins window has now been extended. This deal has extended the Penguins window, and it has now gone from closing to once again opened for, I would say, 2 more years. The Pittsburgh Penguins now have Crosby, Malkin, Rust, Raquel, Smith, Carlson, Letang, Graves, Pettersson, Jerry, all signed for at least the next 2 years. Even Lars Eller, Noel Acciari, Drew O'Connor, Matt Nieto. The only real thing you got to think about is Jake Gensel, but he's going to be easy to re-sign once Carter and Pitlick and whoever else, Nedeljkovic, expire. Give me 2 more years of the Penguins, and I love this story. I love this story that the Penguins are not just doing what Hextall was doing, all in, Band-Aid, 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 eliminated, Band-Aid, eliminated. This is a big power statement to say this is our group, we are trusting them, and we're going all in for these next couple seasons. And we didn't have to give up a ton to do it either. The Penguins, yes, they don't have all their picks, but they still have their first in 2025 and 2026. They still have let's say their first 3 rounds of picks. In a perfect world, they have 9 picks in the next 3 rounds of 2024 2025 and 2026. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They have 7 picks in the next 3 years of the first 3 rounds. That's not a horrible place to be as a team that's trying to contend. So the Penguins, I wouldn't say it's their last run just yet, but I think that this is, as Spencer says, shades of 2015-16. Absolutely. What kind of numbers do you expect out of Carlson in Pittsburgh? I'm not going to go ahead and say he's doing 100-plus points again necessarily, but I think that he puts up numbers. Let me show you right here. I think he puts up similar numbers as we were seeing in his first couple seasons in San Jose. 45 in 53 times 82. That was on pace for a 70-point season. 71 and 77, 82 and 82. I think Carlson does about, I'd say, I'm going to go and put my money on 85 points. I'm going to say that for Erik Karlsson this next season. I'm going to say over 70 for Spencer, also saying over under. Let's see. What's your guess as to what happens with the Letang and Carlson power play situation? I was reading earlier as in like 2 weeks ago, that Letang would stay on the first pair right D, and Carlson would quarterback the first power play unit. So I think that's how it's going to work. If I was the coach, from my limited experience, that's what I would do. I would keep Letang first pair right D, play him with Graves, or maybe play him with Marcus Pettersson. My second pair would be Ryan Graves and Erik Karlsson, and Erik Karlsson would be my first unit power play quarterback. That's what I would say. Deep pairings would be that. Yeah, you read my mind. Cooper. Point per game at least, I'd say. I'm going to go 85 points on Erik Karlsson. Yeah. So from there, let me pull up Hamaliuk, the one player we haven't looked at all yet. I had such a focus on Legare as a Canadiens fan. Let's go to Dillon Hamaliuk. So Dillon Hamaliuk, also a former second-round pick, also 22 years of age, also from the 2019 draft. He was drafted in the same draft as Legare, just a round sooner. Left wing, 22 years of age. In the WHL, not the greatest numbers. In the AHL, not too great either. And he's been in the ECHL. So again, I think Legare and Hamaliuk are just kind of throw-ins, give them new scenery type of guys. Hamaliuk isn't going to do much on the Penguins, and Legare won't do much on the Canadiens, in my opinion. So San Jose, in a way, gets the biggest guarantee. They get 3 NHL caliber players, but it's not at all in line with what they're doing in their timeline. And they get a first-round pick in 2024. That's good, but you would think that even though they only retained $1.5 million, it would have been more than that. Hot take, 55 points, says no. I think that would be wild. That would be wild in my opinion. Yeah, Penn's playing the goalie would be complete chaos. Put those 6 guys out there. Whew. Are the Isles sleepers next year to make the playoffs? I think they're in the sleeper category. I think that they are out of the top 3 teams in their division. Absolutely. Leaf Legends, love watching your videos. My YouTube channel is made from your inspiration. Hey, awesome. That's great to hear. Thank you for saying so. Appreciate the support. Life of Rice, I don't get what the Sharks are doing here. Are they going to try to flip the players they got? That's the only way I could see it making sense, in my opinion. The Sharks have a lot, and I mean a lot, of expiring UFAs in 2024. So if you're going to tell me the Sharks did what they did because they're going to be flipping LeBlanc, Duclair, Lindblom, sorry, this is the old Sharks. Got to refresh. If you're telling me that the Sharks are doing what they're doing because they're flipping those guys for picks and prospects, okay, it makes more sense. Do you see Kyle Dubas moving Jeff Carter before the season? I don't think so. He has a limited no trade clause. He's at a tough AAV. I don't know if I see the Penguins doing that. Come on. Is that Kane's goalie at the Pens sign going to be the backup? Yeah. Alex Nedeljkovic. He'll back up Tristan Jarry. This refresh here. There we go. Now refresh. Okay. So if you're going to tell me that LeBlanc, Hoffman, Duclair, Barabanov, Lindblom, Sturm, are they going to clear house totally at the deadline and move all the UFAs out, C-Mac, McDonald, Kakinen, and get a boatload of picks and prospects? Then I'd say, okay, that makes a lot more sense. But it's still a maybe. You have a guarantee right now in Erik Karlsson. His value is a guarantee. It's not a guarantee that Granlund will hold his, not Granlund, sorry, but it's not a guarantee that Hoffman will have a lot of value at the deadline. It's not a guarantee that all these UFAs in San Jose will have value at the deadline. Rutta signed for 2 years. Granlund signed for 2 years. It doesn't fit their timeline at all, in my opinion. I find it so odd. Not that they trade Carlson and don't get a ton back, but that what they get back are 31-year-old plus roster players. I find that very odd. Let's see, anything else? So the Penguins acquire a 100-point right-handed D, clear $3 million in cap space, and only give up a first and a second in draft capital. Welcome to the Dubas era, Pens fans. Welcome to the Dubas era. Absolutely. Wow. So looking at it one more time now, we've broken it all down player by player. The Penguins get Erik Karlsson, goes without saying how good he is. Hamaliuk, who's a prospect who likely will never be anything, in my opinion. A 2026 third, so that's, why not, throw in some value. In exchange for giving up 31-year-old Mikael Granlund, 33-year-old Jan Rutta, and a 2024 top 10 protected first-round pick. The Canadiens, for receiving Jeff Petry 25% retained, give San Jose Mike Hoffman, receive Casey DeSmith from Pittsburgh, who's going to be, excuse me, I didn't break down here, Jeff Petry, who will be flipped, absolutely. Casey DeSmith, who can either play with Montembeault and or Allen if the Canadiens roll with 3 goalies. Legare, another prospect who's not likely to become anything but will play in Laval. And go de chez nous, the French Canadians love having those guys on board. And a 2025 second-round pick from Pittsburgh for facilitating this deal. The Canadiens, I think, are the biggest winners in terms of getting the most value for giving out the least. They move out Hoffman, who's, to put it delicately, a cone, and Rem Pitlick, who's not in this trade. I don't know why. He should have been there. Cap friendly forgot. In exchange for getting back draft picks, Petri who'll become a pick, a prospect, all that good stuff. I love that. So let me go back to the comments here. I see a lot coming in, but I was just reading for a second there. So let's see. Do you think this year will be the most competitive that we've seen in the East? Yes, I think the East will get very... Yeah, Pitlick was forgotten there. The East, and specifically the Metropolitan Division, is getting very competitive. The Devils had a great offseason. The Penguins, this caps off an incredible offseason as well. I think that the Eastern Conference, it's not... What was happening was, in recent years, it was the East was strong, the West was strong. The East was strong, the West was strong. This next season, a lot of those weaker teams in the West, the Anaheims and the what team could I say? Like the Anaheims and even like the Kings of the world, the Anaheim Ducks, the LA Kings of the world, they were at the bottom. And yes, they may still be at the bottom, but they are going to be in a much better position this next season without other teams necessarily taking their spot as being, quote, the worst. There are going to be teams like the Anaheims, like the Kings, who are trying to take those steps forward, while those teams who are already forward are not necessarily taking those steps back. So that what you get is a lot of mid teams, but then you also get a lot of teams that are trying to extend their windows and trying to push for championships and for cups and for one last drop out of their veterans. It's an interesting, like the stars have all come together to form this perfect next 2023-24 season where a lot of teams are going to be trying to do something with their window closing. Petri has negative value. No, he doesn't have negative value at all now because he's 25% retained, and the Canadiens can retain another 25%. That will make him only cost about $3 million. So Jeff Petry at $6.3 million for sure negative value, but the Canadiens retaining and the Penguins retaining to bring him to 3.1. Then, or even I'm not sure the exact numbers if the Canadiens can retain even more than that. But to bring him to around 3 million instead of 6.3 gives him a lot of value. He's dropped off in recent years, but he is still a very serviceable defenseman at 3 million. Absolutely. Don't get me wrong. Sorry, I spent so much time on that last question that I didn't scroll through the rest of the comments. My apologies. We got Petri again. The Canes will definitely be flipping him, though. I don't think that he wants to be staying in Montreal. Appreciate you, Leafs. Kings at the bottom. Well, I'm not saying the LA Kings are at the bottom. I'm just saying that teams in recent years who have been at the bottom, like the Kings or like the Ducks or like those teams in the West, they're now in a time on their timeline. They're now in a little zone of what's the word I'm looking for? They're in a season of development. So the teams like the Kings who are getting better while the teams who are already good, like let's say the Bruins, let's say the Penguins, let's say the Hurricanes, these teams who are already very good are continuing to stay good or are trying to hang on to how good they were / how good they are. It's not like the usual cycle of, let's say, Detroit, who was amazing, then went to rebuild, and now they're getting back to being amazing. It's not that cycle. This next season, we're not seeing that cycle just yet. Those bad teams are getting better, and those good and great teams are doing their best to stay good and great. I don't see a lot of teams that are resigning to say, yep, you know what, we had our time, it's time for the rebuild. I'm not seeing that. That's what I'm saying. The Kings won't be at the bottom. I'm saying the Kings have been at the bottom, and they may still be towards the bottom because of how good the other rest of the league is, but they're not going to be content with staying there. Sorry if I wasn't clear on that. I'm not saying the Kings are a bottom team. They're one of the best in the Pacific, absolutely. Will Pens look to get a backup? No, their backup right now is Alex Nedeljkovic. They signed him in free agency. They'll have him now. Are you surprised that none of Pickering, P.O. Joseph, or Ty Smith were traded to San Jose? 100%. I am floored. More than surprised. I'm floored. The Penguins didn't give up any prospects aside from Nathan Legare, a former third-round pick who is likely to never make the league. I'm very surprised. Very, very surprised. So the Penguins, they clear $3 million in cap space. They get Erik Karlsson. They give up only a first and a second. No prospects. And that's the Dubas era. Get excited, Pittsburgh. Get excited. Does this here? Now this shows you almost the whole deal. So the Penguins get Carlson at 1.5 retained, Pitlick 1 year, Hamaliuk 1 year. Sharks get Granlund 2 years, Rutta 2 years, Hoffman 1 year, and Canadiens get Petri for 2 years with retention. DeSmith 1 year, Legare 1 year, and then the Penguins. Blah, 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 blah. There's a lot of trying to fit it into the small character limit on Twitter. Yeah, Hoffman washed, in my opinion, unfortunately. So the Canadiens, they did the Penguins a favor in taking Petri, but they get to dump Mike Hoffman, which is a lot of value right there. Kyle Dubas pulled off a fleece in this deal, in my opinion. Hoffman moving from the Canadiens is a huge plus for the Habs, and the Canadiens get picks, and they'll get more for having facilitated that deal. A huge plus for them. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. It was a long video of breaking it all down. I might do another one just to make it, this was a 50-minute video. I might try and do another 10, 15-minute video just to try and condense it into one smaller thing with my thoughts on the deal itself. But thank you for joining me for this live stream, almost an hour. Huge blockbuster, the deal of the off season as Erik Karlsson goes to the Pittsburgh Penguins. Yeah, so if the Canadiens retain 50% on Petri, he's already 25% retained. He's 75% retained. Yeah, so 75%, 6.25 times 0.75. Oh, sorry, by 0.25. That means he'd only be costing 1.56. Yeah, there's tons of teams would love Petri at 1.56. On left defense, it would be, or left out on defense. Well, Jan Rutta moved out. So the Penguins are going to have Pettersson, Letang, Graves, Karlsson, P.O. Joseph, Ty Smith, and then even Chad Ruedel. So, but we'll call it there, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already for continued breaking news analysis in the NHL. Subscribe for my upcoming analysis of this trade in a bit more of a condensed form. One team can retain 50%, but you can retain 25 on one and 50 on another, I believe. Am I two teams combined? I thought I had understood it was 50 and then 50. With making it 50 of 50 and then 50 of 50, making it 75. But regardless, whether he's 1.56 or 3.1, he is going to have a lot of teams interested in him. So be sure to subscribe for that ongoing analysis, as well as our NHL 23 content, our ongoing Pittsburgh Penguins franchise mode, which would be a great time for you to hop in. We'd love some more assistant general managers in the comments. So if you enjoy that, this would be a perfect time for you to join the channel. Our Discord server link is in the description, where we're always breaking news and discussing hockey and your own franchise mode series in there as well. And we also have our NHL 23 career simulations. So check out the channel for Jari Slavkovsky's sim, Connor Bedard's sim, Matvey Michkov's sim. Lots of simulations on NHL 23 there for your enjoyment. Thank you for joining me this morning, this afternoon for this breaking news. Erik Karlsson traded to the Pittsburgh Penguins. What do you think this does to the Metropolitan Division, to the Pittsburgh Penguins? Do you like this for the Sharks and even for the Canadiens? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and I'll leave you there, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining. Be sure to leave a like. I hope to hear from you soon, and have yourselves a wonderful rest of the weekend as we get closer and closer to the super exciting 2023-24 season ahead. Thank you for being here, and we'll talk soon.